welcome to the Wild History Podcast. My name is Irene. Thank you so much for joining me as we explore the wild world of the past. I love history, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. It has been a long time in the making because I have wanted to do this for such a long time, and there were so many amazing inspirations to my love of history. One of them being my parents. They set such an amazing example for a interactive example of what history is. And it was never just boring books or sitting in a classroom for me. My parents made sure that my sister and I would go and explore some of these historical sites or go to interactive historical museums. And we grew up having such a love of history all along the East Coast of the United States. So that was always such an amazing time, which made me fall in love with history because I got to see a lot of it firsthand. Another reason why I love history is because of my cousin, Dr. Joe. He has an antique house that he would show tours of for my family, and he would explain some of the different antiques that he had when we would go through and walk through his house. And that always inspired me as well, hearing the stories behind some of these things that he had found or hunted down so that he could furnish his home. So seeing those types of amazing examples of history alive and right there that I could feel it and touch it and see it, it always intrigued me. And it made history real. Another reason why I love history too, and the main reason why I love history is because history is a key to the future. History often tends to repeat itself. And so because of that, I am able to study history and see different things that go on. And I would love to be a conduit of change for the future. So I always feel very inspired when I read through history. Despite some of the sad things that occur, history is full of such amazing stories. And that's what part of what we're going to be going through on this podcast is the wild side of history. So it definitely took me a while to narrow down the topic that I wanted to talk about today because history is my favorite thing. So there was definitely a long list, but I decided that I would narrow it down to a story that was the beginning of the end of a way of life. Our story takes place in France, and it was the end of an era, but it was the beginning of an end. This story begins in 1772 with King Louis XV when he commissioned an extravagant necklace. And this necklace would lead to a very disruptive reputation that would be the downfall of a monarchy. This extravagant necklace had 600 to 650 diamonds. The sources that I read couldn't agree on one, but that is a lot of diamonds either way, whether it was 600 or 650. That is so many diamonds. And there was pictures of different replicas of what they thought it would look like. And it was 280 carats. So this was a very serious piece of jewelry. It was commissioned to the Parisian crown jewelers, Charles Auguste Boehmer and Paul Bassenge. And they designed the necklace for King Louis XV's mistress. Yes, he had a mistress. This was actually very common in the time of common during this time, but also common for a lot of royals. They would take on a mistress or have an extramarital affair of some sort. And although it wasn't necessarily viewed in a positive light, it was just common. So it was just known that this was something that people would do. So he had this commissioned for his mistress, and her name was Madame du Barry. And he loved her. He was so in love and wanted to show his love with his very expensive and extravagant necklace. But a necklace like that takes time. And during the time that it took to commission this necklace, King Louis XV came down with smallpox, which is a very deadly disease. And unfortunately, he did not survive because it was the 1700s and there was no form of modern medicine. They were still leeching people's blood as a form of healthcare, which is, now we know, not actually helpful in those scenarios. So unfortunately, he did pass away from that illness. And his grandson, King Louis the 16th, came into power. And he was married to the iconic and infamous Marie Antoinette. And so this is where we see Marie Antoinette come into the picture. And she was a very strong woman who had a lot of opinions. But with all of those opinions, she found herself having a high moral standard for her life. So she did not approve of King Louis XV's extramarital affair. So when the Parisian jewelers finally finished this necklace, they thought in their heads, oh, we could sell this to Marie Antoinette. So they went and they tried to sell it to her. And she wanted nothing to do with it because she knew that it was made for Madame du Barry. And they were like, oh, well, you could still buy it. And she's like, no, I will not have anything to do with that man or his mistress. Now enter a woman who was trying to rise above her rank. Her name was she was actually the self-proclaimed Comtesse Jeanne de la Motte. And she was married. She had a husband who was not able to provide the lavish lifestyle that she wanted. So she decided that she was going to come up with this elaborate plan to be able to live the life she wanted. Which, I mean, she was definitely ambitious. So I'll give her that. But that's all I'm going to give her. This woman was so creative with this plan she came up with. First, she tried directly reaching out to the new queen, Marie Antoinette. And the queen had heard from other courtiers and different people that this woman was not really as classy as Marie Antoinette thought she was. And again, she didn't really like extramarital affairs or people who were trying to pull one over. She just thought that this was suspicious. So she never responded to any of the letters that our Comtesse Jeanne had sent. And she didn't want to have anything to do with her, which seems to be a trend. Marie Antoinette was just like, no, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. And she was done. So, I mean, Jeanne didn't know what to do. The Comtesse did not know what to do. So she decided she was going to get into a relationship with a very important bishop who had had a falling out with Marie Antoinette. She clearly didn't like a lot of people, okay? And she was constantly like ousting people, kicking people out, removing them from her court. She wasn't going to have it. So this very important bishop, his name was Cardinal Louis de Rohan, and he was into Jeanne. And they allegedly developed an intimate relationship with one another, despite Jeanne being married to her husband who couldn't provide the life she wanted. So Jean is talking with him, and she tells this story, oh yes, to the cardinal. Okay, she says, oh, I am so in with Marie Antoinette. I'm friends with the queen. I can definitely help you reconnect. Let me just send this letter. And she would send correspondence back and forth saying, oh, this is what the queen said. Oh, the queen wants this. The queen wants that. All of these different things. And now word gets around that Jean, the Comtesse Jean, is close with the queen. So the jewelers are two jewelers, Bahmer and Bassenge. They hear that she's close with the queen, so they think maybe this is their chance. Maybe she can convince the queen to buy this extravagant necklace that they had, the two jewelers. And she sees this necklace, or she hears about this necklace because they just wrote her a letter at this point. And she was like, oh, a diamond necklace? Oh my goodness. Yes, I definitely convinced the queen. I can convince the queen. Mind you, she has not talked to the queen. She has not actually had any actual communication with the queen. So this is all a lie. She is lying through her teeth, but she's sending letters back and forth to the jeweler. Oh yes, I can definitely arrange a meeting. I would love to actually look at it in person because, supposedly she was like, I would love to look at it again. So she doesn't look like Marie Antoinette, but she knows someone who could pass for Marie Antoinette. And so she hires a sex worker who she dresses up as an imposter to impersonate the queen, Marie Antoinette, okay? Impersonates the queen, meets up with these two jewelers, sees the necklace, and says, yes, I am interested, but I don't want to take it now. I'll send someone to come and get it. So that's the end of that. The jewelers are like, oh, yay, we're finally going to sell this necklace that we spent so much time and money on. And Jean, the Comtesse, is thinking, okay, I can get this necklace. So this is what she does. Not only did she set up this imposter for the meeting, she then sends more letters back and forth. And she creates a fake letter stating that she is going to have, as if she's the queen, she says she's going to be commissioning the Cardinal Louis de Rohan, her little boo thing. She's pretending to be Marie Antoinette to the jewelers, saying that Rohan, this bishop cardinal, can go and pick up the necklace on her behalf. So they arrange a meeting with him in person. And the way she tricks the cardinal, she says, oh, Marie Antoinette said that if you pick up this necklace for her, she'll let you back into the inner circle. So that's how she tricks him into going and even getting this necklace at all. So he's tricked, the jewelers are tricked, and she's here orchestrating this whole thing, talking about Marie Antoinette and that she's close with her. So the jewelers and the Cardinal Rohan meet up and they give him the necklace. And he says, oh, payment will be sent shortly. And of course they trust it because it's from the queen. That was the ultimate trust. You're the monarchy. They had trust in their rulers. So they're like, oh, of course, no problem at all. We'll be waiting for this payment. So Cardinal Rohan takes the necklace, and the jewelers are waiting and waiting and waiting for the payment. And nothing happens. Obviously, no one had the money for this necklace. It was not actually going to the queen. But they didn't know that. So they went to the palace where the queen was and got an audience with her and said, hey, about the necklace that you finally said yes to, we need our payment. And you can imagine, the queen was completely shocked. She was surprised. What do you mean? What do you mean that you need payment? I said I didn't want the necklace how long ago, and now you're here asking me for money? What are you talking about? And so they're accusing her of trickery and stealing. So there's a whole investigation that takes place. And they end up getting to the bottom of it because they say, oh, well, Cardinal so-and-so said this. And so Cardinal Rohan is brought in. He then explains, oh, yes, I brought the necklace and I said that you would pay because, Comtesse Jean de la Motte, I struggle with saying that word, Jean de la Motte, she said that you would be able to go and pay for this. And so you wanted me to pick it up. So Marie Antoinette is shocked. She's like, no, that is not what happened. Bring her here. So what ends up happening, Jean says that she sent the necklace to London, England. And they were in France, remember? So she sent it to London, England for it to be sold off piece by piece. And she had the money. And she basically spent whatever money she had earned on it from the necklace. But the cardinal did not have any repercussions. He was set free because he was tricked just as much as the next person. And, everyone else that was in this web it was all Jean's fault. So Jean ended up being sent to prison. She was sent to jail, specifically to jail, and he was let free. And Marie Antoinette, the new queen, she was innocent in this whole matter. So she was not aware of this trickery and she was not a part of this scheme. But unfortunately, because of the way public opinion was skewed at this time, because Marie Antoinette, she was a luxurious person. She was building these elaborate parties and elaborate gardens and spending so much money from the country's wealth on herself. Meanwhile, so many people in France at the time were starving and did not have basic food or water or anything. They didn't have money for anything. And she was there throwing lavish parties, having lavish court events and different things that were so, so expensive. And the public already viewed her in this way that she was just a lavish person. So even though she is believed to be innocent in this story, the public viewpoint of her dropped significantly. And this affair of the diamond necklace really put a stain on the perception that the public had of Marie Antoinette and the monarchy. And this later on led to phrases that are synonymous with Marie Antoinette. Let them eat cake. Even though it's now known that that's a myth. She did not actually say that. It's not thought that she did not actually say that. But the concept is there that there was this huge wealth gap. And it ended up leading to the French Revolution, where the French people took down the monarchy as it was and tried to even the playing field for their country. And it really changed the entire trajectory of their country. And it all started, this was one of the beginning tidal waves in a tsunami that led to the French Revolution. And it all started with this one woman who was planning this whole scheme that there was an imposter and an impersonator and just so many lies, also that she could live a lavish life too. So that was just such a wild story. When I was researching, I thought, oh my goodness, this is such a crazy chain of events. And that's one of the reasons why I love history too, because there is such a chain of events that happens. And I don't know, this Marie Antoinette, she's forever tied to extravagance and opulence. And, you could see it in her palace, the Palace of Versailles, which is still standing today. And it is such an immense place. And you can see the reflections left over from that time of extreme luxury and extreme wealth, and thinking of the extreme poverty that so many French people were going through at that time. It's just so crazy. So glad that you were able to join me today with the first episode of the Wild History podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. Follow if you are listening on Spotify or any other platforms. And make sure to leave a review or a comment. And connect with me on Instagram at Wildhistorypod, on Instagram and X. I would love to be able to connect with you. If you have any favorite history stories or wild and crazy events, definitely let me know what's some of your favorites. I am so glad that you joined me today, and hopefully you'll be able to join next week. Thank you so much, and goodbye.